Make sure to start recording here.
Yes. I will send out to everyone who has registered the podcast and the recording, so no one will ultimately not be part of this. But just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry for the delay. I want to welcome everyone to the China-US Women's Foundation weekly Zoom session. This is a special event today in honor of Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we're so honored and pleased to have Sandra Lanshin Chiu, the founder of Lanshin. She's an acupuncturist and herbalist, and she's going to share her her philosophy and understanding that beauty is a result of vibrant health. It is attained through daily practices that build and restore health to our body and systems. Just a quick bit about Sandra, and then she can talk for herself. Sandra is an acupuncturist, Chinese herbalist, and founder of Treatment by Lanshin. In practice for over a decade, she focuses on treating skin disorders and rejuvenating skin using the unique approach of Chinese medicine, which she believes will transform the future of skincare. On a personal note, we were so pleased that Sandra would join us because in trying to find a speaker in honor of AAPI Heritage Month, we wanted to focus on the commonalities of the cultures between China and the US. We were founded to be the bridge between women in China and the US, and we believe that beauty and health and wellness really is a shared commonality and passion among women in China and the US. And together we can share insights, secrets, tips, enjoy each other in the process, and really cut through, I think, a lot of the tension and animosity that we've all felt in the last few years. So Sandra, again, thank you so much. Sandra has taken time out of her very busy schedule to be with us today. So welcome.
Thank you.
Sandra, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your journey, how you came to be what you are at the moment.
Well, I've been in practice as a Chinese medicine practitioner. And for those of you that don't really understand what that means, I'm an acupuncturist and a Chinese herbalist, and basically practice the main tools of Chinese medicine. So even though, you know, when you say acupuncturist, people usually think that means I work with needles only. And you know, here in the States, that actually means that you work with the system of Chinese medicine, which includes needles as acupuncture, cupping, gua sha, and other things like herbs and moxibustion. There are other elements to the Chinese medicine system, like nutrition and qigong, like energy cultivation practice. But medically, you know, I practice acupuncture and all of those tools. And I started to do this back in 2006 after spending a year in China apprenticing. When you train in Chinese medicine here in the States, what you do is you enter a master's degree program to study you know, the foundations of Chinese medicine, as well as more practically the craft of acupuncture and herbal therapy, and then all of those other things, cupping, gua sha, etc. So yeah, so then after I went to school, which actually is a 4-year program, I feel like a lot of people here don't understand that when you see acupuncture, you see Chinese medicine, I do think sometimes people relate it to things like Reiki or like, you know, crystal healing and sort of those alternative medicine types of things, but it's actually, you know, a bona fide, legitimate sort of medicine that you have to study for a long time. And yeah, I just feel like people don't realize that about Chinese medicine practice here in the States. Obviously in China, it's even beyond that. But here in the States, it is, you do have to go through formal training, and it is a clinical medicine that you practice. And so I apprenticed in China for a year with a few different teachers. I lived in Beijing for that year, and then came back and set up a practice. And about almost 10 years ago, I started to focus more on treating skin issues using the medicine, because it's not a very popular thing to use Chinese medicine to treat. Not as popular as things like fertility or pain, obviously. But I started to focus on that. And so here I am now, where I use all of the tools that I have studied and continue to practice using, and I apply it to treat dermatological disorders, like everything from acne to eczema to psoriasis to rosacea, etc. And then I also apply these tools to do cosmetic treatment, because I really think Chinese medicine is fun to use for cosmetic purposes, which again, I don't know that it's known for that, because it's a true medicine that helps healing. But we apply these kinds of principles of healing to cosmetic treatment, and because what underlies every problem is a health issue. Like, so if even skin issues are at their core an internal imbalance. So that's about what I do and kind of the trajectory. Before I became a Chinese medicine practitioner, I was a banker.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in finance.
And how did you make the shift? Did you just one day say, I've had enough, or was this just a detour in what you knew was going to be your path?
I didn't know it was going to be my path. It was definitely, when I look back from today, I would say that it's one of those things where you just follow your inner voice and you don't necessarily know what the big picture looks like as it's happening. Like, I was in my early 20s and feeling unhappy with the corporate world, and feeling unhappy and unsatisfied with the work that I was doing. And so I just kept following one thing to the next. I followed my interests basically, and it eventually led me to the realization that the corporate world wasn't for me, the world of finance isn't for me. And so that's when I put myself into Chinese medicine school with the help of my parents. I didn't do it alone, but like, that's when I went back to school basically for Chinese medicine. And so it took a long time. It took like by the time I realized that I didn't want to be in the corporate world, I didn't know that I wanted to be in the Chinese medicine world. I just knew I wanted to be out of the corporate world. So I think once you have that realization, one thing leads to the next.
I have had acupuncture, and I've worked with hospitals that incorporate acupuncture in their, largely I think like for pain management, but I haven't really, and I've had facials, I haven't really ever had a facial connected to traditional Chinese medicine. Could you describe like what that is in terms of, like, if I were to go, and normally I just lie back and they do something and then I leave, what is different about the experience when they come to your services?
So there's sort of, I kind of see my work in two branches. One branch is, really treating internal chronic inflammatory skin disorders. So when I work with acne, rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, whatever, that's largely an herbal treatment process, because it requires consistent and regular internal treatment to resolve the imbalance within that creates the inflammation on the surface. So that's the kind of thing where people will come to me having usually gone and seen dermatologists and didn't with no success. So that's one type of patient that I work with. And then another type is interested in like a cosmetic rejuvenation, basically. So these are the types of people that are looking to like naturally age well. And so what's different about the facial treatments that I do is that they're not spa facials. So like most people, know facials to be, you go to the spa, you do a series of masking and a lot of like topical treatments, right? To deep cleanse, to, usually it's deep cleanse and maybe heavily moisturize or more deeply moisturize. And that's it, right? That's more of a spa facial. So my work with facials is different. It's really more of an acupuncture treatment that focuses on the face. But it also includes I also treat the body because it's all connected in Chinese medicine. The face is not cut off from the body, right? So internal physical health affects what happens on your face. So when you come to see me for facial treatment, I'll either use acupuncture that I apply to your body and to your face, your neck, your scalp. I also apply facial gua sha, which is a type of gua sha that you do on the face and the neck that's more gentle. And I use all of those together to create a cosmetic treatment that kind of rejuvenates and it's really about restoring the qi. We would say restoring the qi and the blood circulation to the skin, to the facial areas of concern. And so it's really, so I say the best way to understand if you were to come see me is that you're really coming for an acupuncture treatment that is designed to restore facial features and the skin.
So I have become aware, thanks to you, about the Guazhou treatment, and I must admit I even bought one of the tools.
Nice.
And it does look like common sense, but also traditional Chinese medicine, in that if you do exercise the muscles of the face, they will become stronger and keep the architecture up, so that perhaps you wouldn't even have to resort to plastic surgery. Is that generally the objective of a lot of the treatments, is that you just keep the sagging away and all the muscles tight?
The objective of my treatment and of Chinese medicine treatment for the face, for skin, is to amplify and improve the strength of circulation. So this is the foundation that belies all Chinese medicine treatment. So whether you're being treated for a headache, or you're being treated for menstrual pain, or indigestion, or sagging, aging skin, it's always about boosting the strength of the circulation as a way to strengthen the function of your skin and of your organ systems. Because when we work with acupuncture points, we're actually connecting with and tapping into the deeper organ systems of the body. So you're using the surface to talk to the deeper organs, and then you're also treating the deeper organs to make the surface look better and be better, right? Because your skin is a functioning organ too. So aside from just being something that you want to maintain and support cosmetically, you do want to support your skin as an organ as well. So it's not that I'm trying to strengthen muscles so much as I'm trying to strengthen the forces in your body of circulation, of energy, of blood, of fluids. You're trying to just amplify all of that, because as we get older, that force gets weaker, and it usually weakens due to a lifetime of stress and tension that cuts off bit by bit pieces of our body from having really youthful and vibrant circulation. So to me, when I think about everything, whether it's cosmetic or whether it's like internal illness, it's about amplifying the forces of circulation. And that's just basic Chinese medicine, super base on a really basic level. And as you know, Karen and Mingyi know, having grown up in China, like you grow that even in Chinese culture, that is a known concept, and that, you know, cultivating, you know, in China and in Chinese culture, it's about cultivating longevity. And so that's what we're basically doing, is helping to cultivate longevity by supporting the circulation in the body and what powers circulation.
When I was researching the difference of Eastern and Western medicine in preparation, one journalist wrote that you could look at the Eastern, it's almost like studying the software of the body, whereas Western medicine is about the hardware, so that they look at things like just by themselves, a one-off, whereas actually in Chinese, Eastern medicine, they're looking at systems and how they interact. And that made a lot of sense to me in trying to kind of understand the difference. My question is, are you trying to kind of bring the best of both worlds, or are you trying to be true to the traditional Chinese and bring it to a Western clientele audience?
Mostly I'm rooted in Chinese medicine and in trying to help translate what that means to a Western, you know, to a Western clientele. As far as, you know, as far as the treatments that I do, they're not a combination of Western and Chinese medicine. They are strictly Chinese medicine. But because I'm practicing Chinese medicine here in the West, it's impossible not to be aware of, like, if someone comes into me with eczema, I'm aware of how they've been treated with Western dermatology, right? So you have to kind of be aware of the concepts that you have to be aware of the way that Western medicine views that condition, because your patients will have used like steroids, and they'll have, you know, used like certain drugs that you kind of have to understand what's being used and why they were given it. And then from there, I can apply, you know, Chinese medicine based on understanding, you know, what someone has experienced already using Western medicine, if that makes sense. So I think it's important, because I practice Chinese medicine here, to have an eye on Western medicine, but I'm not actually incorporating any of that into my treatments.
You mentioned kind of burnout or you know, lack of energy. There have been a lot of articles about, like, after this year that we've just experienced, apparently 75% of people who are asked feel that they have symptoms of burnout. They just don't have the energy that they need in order to function. Is there something that TCM can help with this kind of, I don't know if it's Western or maybe it's global these days, phenomenon? Any suggestions?
Well, the first thing I would say is, well, the answer from Chinese medicine is always, it depends, because Chinese medicine is a medicine that's applied to an individual. And so that's like a key difference between Western and Chinese medicine, is when we look at someone with headache, we don't just treat all headaches the same, because, you know, the system, like your system is different from Mingyi's system, is different from Karen's and everyone else on the call. So we have to take into consideration your unique individual traits, like your unique individual physical traits, right? And so we apply treatment based on that. And that's why I think Chinese medicine is so effective, is because we recognize that a headache is different in different people. And we do what we call pattern recognition. We identify and recognize patterns that have to do with, you know, Chinese medicine systems, but and it's kind of difficult to understand, but basically will identify patterns of headache across different people. So when it comes to your question about like, is there something people can do for burnout? That's actually very general. So the best answer to that question is to understand, you know, what do they mean by burnout? Do they mean that like they're frustrated all the time and are in a bad mood all the time? Or is it that they like are so tired that like they, you know, can barely stay awake in a day? So burnout actually means a lot of different things. So what I would say is if people are dealing with like a lack of energy, right? Like not feeling like they have enough energy. The one thing I can recommend without seeing an individual and understanding their unique body and their unique system is to make sure you're applying the basic foundations of like human body care. So that means to make sure that you're sleeping and that you have good sleep hygiene. So that means you're not on your phone till midnight or 1, 2 in the morning. It means you're winding down when it gets dark and you're getting into bed, you know, 10, 11, midnight, you know, latest, and getting, you know, a full night's sleep. And if you're not able to sleep because you have insomnia issues, you need to treat that, right? So that your sleep is good. So that's one foundation of good body care. And we say this in Chinese culture, right? Like you have to sleep, you have to have a good appetite, you have to sleep well, you have to poop well, you have to move to have health. So if you look at each one of those things in your life, like how are you eating and hydrating? How are you moving, or are you moving and exercising? And, you know, are you sleeping? And how well are you sleeping? You would look at those basics first, and whatever those things are out of balance or are not, you know, optimal, you want to work on that. And if you can do that, then you should not feel burnout. If those things are, if you're getting good sleep, you're getting good food and hydration, and you're getting good movement, not likely that you'll be complaining about burnout.
Well, I'm going to open it up to other questions, but I just have to say, first of all, I will come to your salon and meet with you. So I am truly sold. And I'm just wondering, are you finding more and more people, and I agree, we're all just now emerging from this last year, are more receptive to this, you know, kind of explanation of health? It resonates with me. It seems very kind of natural and not radical, using one's own body. Are you finding you're having more of kind of an acceptance of these practices?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's been like normal now for a while. Maybe when I first graduated back in 2005, we were fighting against the tide a little bit, and like we were still seen as like quacks by the medical profession. But today it's almost the opposite. Like I think a lot of people trust acupuncturists sometimes more than medical doctors, just based on the quality of care that people get from the Western medical system. It's very low, or it doesn't intuitively make sense to them. And so often people feel like they're being told that, you know, there's nothing wrong with them, but they feel bad. And Chinese medicine acknowledges and recognizes that there can be a they call it almost like sub-health, where just because you don't find it in a blood test or a lab test doesn't mean there isn't something out of balance. And so in some ways, I think Chinese medicine for some part of the population almost surpasses Western as like a trusted medical source.
Any questions from our group here?
I was wondering, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering, like plant-based retinols, is that something that you look into or you agree with or have you heard of?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is there's no such thing as a plant-based retinol. It's a plant-based alternative to retinol. but
Okay.
they're actually not the same thing. So retinol is a derivative, is a form rather of vitamin A, right? So, and it can be harsh in some skin types, and just depending on how it's formulated, retinols. So what plant-based alternatives to retinols are just plants, herbal. Usually it's an extraction of an herb, but it's an herbal ingredient that has functions that are similar to retinol. So some of the things that retinol is known for is it helps to stimulate skin cell turnover. So the turnover of your skin, because you know your skin is constantly turning over. And when we get older, that slows down, and that can contribute to issues like dull skin, dry skin, just like non-optimal skin health. So retinol helps to amplify skin cell turnover. It regulates your oils, and it helps to sort of support your skin when it's been sun damaged. So it sort of like reinvigorates the skin function when it's been damaged by the sun, which is like very commonly on our face and neck. It also supports like pigmentation health. So it's like prevents pigmentation. It can help resolve pigmentation. And so those functions are also seen in plant alternatives like bakuchiol, Bakuchiol. That's a really famous alternative, plant-based alternative to retinol today. And in fact, that is an herb used in Chinese medicine, as well as Ayurvedic medicine. Bakuchiol, I think the name Bakuchiol, I think comes from the Ayurvedic name of the herb. In Chinese medicine, it's buguzi, and or Soralia in the Latin name. And so that is not a retinol though. It's just an alternative to retinol because it has similar functionality. It does similar things.
Do you
Its
think
effect.
Do you think the mass-produced retinol is like more chemical-based than?
Everything's a chemical. So even your plant-based, plant-based ingredients, they're chemical. Water is a chemical. So everything's a chemical. So what does it mean? That negative connotation of chemical is retinols are not that. Retinols are have a lot of safety data behind them. They're safety tested, and actually it's one of the most studied skincare ingredients is retinol. So we shouldn't think that retinols are bad. It's more who's formulating the retinol is how I look at it. So you have people that have very little skincare formulation experience formulating with retinols, and then you have extremely experienced people formulating with retinols. I think that's more important. And it's just I like to use both. I use the best. This is where I do use the best of both worlds, where I use retinol, or I use vitamin A, and then I pair it with the bakuchiol, because why not do both? They can help synergize and amplify. Maybe they can even amplify each other. So there's no study done on that yet, but theoretically it's possible. So I don't necessarily, even though I'm an herbalist, I don't always assume that the natural option is better. It's just different.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about, like mass production. They weren't really looking into, they were just additives to it.
Yeah. Just because something is mass produced, I don't think necessarily means that it carries like negative residue, like residues or additives. Because the herbal stuff can too. It just depends on who's formulating it, right? Sure. So I think it's more, what I would do is, if you're interested in what retinol can do for your skin, or the plant alternative to retinol, is to find a brand that that has experience in formulation, as well as skin skin therapy. So like dermatologists, right?
Okay, yeah.
So a lot of brands are formulated by people, like if you look at their about page, it just says, this person loves skincare and they formulated this brand, and that's great. But there's also brands that are formulated by doctors or by practitioners, you know, who treat many people's skin, and then the formulation expertise comes from that versus like, you know, someone who loves skincare, which is great, but that's a very different level. So I always recommend that you go for, you know, really learn how to look for expertise.
Thank you.
And on that subject, are you introducing a skincare line? Uh-huh.
I know everyone asks me that. I am in the thought process about it. Yeah, there's so much skincare on the market. Part of me is like, I don't know that the world needs another skincare line, but I do think that there's a lot of interesting and effective ingredients from the Chinese medicine formula, you know, from Chinese medicine that could be really interesting, and that's not really out there. So I'm thinking about it.
I mean, that's an interesting thing. As you know, the Women's Foundation trying to be a bridge between China and the U.S., we have been actually sensitive to the messages and the recommendations from China. And, you know, Ming Yi has certainly been kind of advising us. So we do believe there is a lot of wisdom that has not quite gotten here yet, that could really help people. So, you know, really would be interested in your insights in that area as you kind of think through that process. Other questions from the group?
Yeah, just tagging on to what Leslie said. You're managing your clinics and you're thinking to develop your brand line, product line. I was wondering, like, if you would also like expand it to educational, like, series, because like the minimal that you share with us, I mean, it's like already, I think like many people are interested, and we understand some, we can explain the whole, and kind of like very interesting to hear from you. You break it down and you make it easy to understand. So I was wondering,
thanks.
any plan?
Yes, actually education is definitely part of is something that we're building out right now. It's going to start with, I do teach facial gua sha to consumers so that you can learn a routine that you can practice at home to help support your skin at home. So I'm starting with this kind of class and then seeing where that goes, like seeing where the interest is. Some people want to go deeper, like yourself, into these concepts, and then others just want, you know, to learn something easy that they can do. So I do believe in education, and that will always be something that I will do going forward, because I just don't believe in throwing out like skincare without education behind it. So and I like that, because I would feature Chinese medicine, and because gua sha is Chinese medicine. When I provide education, I'm able to provide education about Chinese medicine concepts, which is something I love doing. So yeah, that will be part of the brand platform.
Do you
Thank you
teach
for
that?
asking.
Do you teach that class now?
No, we're still, it's in planning. It's, I've been saying that I was going to launch it for 2 years, but it gets so busy, you know, with everything. But this summer it will come out, and hopefully early this summer. And if you're interested, you can email hello, HELLO, at Lanshin, LANSHIN.com. And we're keeping a list of people to email when the first class is scheduled.
I'm sorry, can you say it again? Hello?
It's hello at Lanshin.com. So it's LAN as in Nancy, S as in Sam, HIN as in Nancy.com. Maybe Leslie, if you can, if you guys do follow-up emails.
We do, and we will, of course, as you chart your path, we will let our audience know exactly what you're thinking and doing, because I think it resonates. You know, we're all thinking like, oh, my skin looks gray. I don't know what to do. And I think this offers just something that's not just like, oh, where's the magic cream? It involves the person. I think that's what everyone needs, is to feel like they're connected to their health and beauty. And it's not just like, can I buy the latest, expensive cream product and hope it works? I think people really do want to take control of their lives after this year. So, we really hope we can publicize what it is you're doing. Mingyi, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
No, actually, I do have a lot of questions, but I will save it when I go. I definitely will go visit your store in the upcoming days, and I will save all the questions for you. But I really have to say, it is really very interesting. Like I mentioned before, I do have some exposures about Chinese medicine, but I have no idea how to explain it. But you said it so well. So it would be a shame if you don't offer any type of educational classes to people, And our platform, I'm a co-founder of the China. Our platform is to bring, the best from both worlds together. So something like Chinese traditional medicine, it is something really, really great. We should introduce more to the Western world. I feel like the Chinese traditional medicine is more like, going down to the root of the problem versus some of the Western medicine. I'm not a doctor. I can't say too much about it, but it's more like, put out the fire. But versus Chinese traditional medicine, it's like, okay, to make it fireproof, right? Right, to preventive, and also, so it's very interesting.
I would say that Chinese medicine, in using your analogy, if Western medicine just wants to put out the fire, it's true, Chinese medicine does want to prevent the fire, but if the fire has occurred, Chinese medicine knows that there's different reasons why that caused the fire. And so like, if it was an electrical problem, we go after the electrical system. If it was somebody who was smoking and left their cigarette out, then we go after that problem. So it's like kind of having a way to understand what causes things, and go and treat that, right? So it's like, using your analogy, it almost has a more, in my opinion, for skincare, it has a more sophisticated understanding of the kind of different things that can cause the fire. There's many things that can cause the fire of eczema, whereas in Western medicine, it's just, oh, it's something a steroid will treat, right? But in Chinese medicine, it can be heat in your blood, a dryness in your blood, both dryness and heat in your blood, or it can be dampness and heat, stagnating the channels. It can be toxic heat that stagnates the channels. And so we recognize different features to eczema, and then we can treat it better.
Definitely, very fascinating. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
You're welcome.
So Sandra, I know you are on to a next meeting at 5, so I want to not hold you, but I hope this is the beginning of a discussion. I believe that really in the more that you share your insights about Chinese health and wellness and traditional Chinese medicine, that can really form a platform for understanding between women in China and the US, not political, not economic. It's just a shared interest in the subject matter. So we look forward to following your path and amplifying it, and look forward to our next meeting sometime soon.
Great, thanks. Good to meet you all.
Yes, thank you. Everyone have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.